Hello and welcome to another video in the Apache Kafka series. In this video, we're going to be covering the Producer API. In the past, we talked about the different components of the Apache Kafka ecosystem, and the Producer API was one of the APIs we talked about. This particular API is what you're going to use in the Kafka clients for the language of your choosing to send data to the Kafka cluster, specifically the Kafka brokers. In this particular video, we're going to do a deeper dive into what the Producer API is about. We're going to talk about some of the important methods on the client when you're using the Producer, and then some of the configuration values and what they represent. Now, in my next video after this one, I'm going to walk you through all the config values, but for today, we're going to focus on just the ones that you need to know to get started. So that's what we're going to talk about in this particular tutorial. Now let's take a look at the documentation. I'm going to walk you through the documentation, and I'm also going to share some of the links to this particular content that I'm sharing so that you can go and take a look at it yourself and get started with reading and understanding what this is really about, because when you are doing advanced development, you're going to be able to understand how these config values are affecting the Producer code that you're writing. Let's take a look. So if you go to this page, I'm going to add this link to the description. You can click on the Kafka Clients Producer package, and that will take you to another page where you can click the specific class I'm going to talk about today. That is the Kafka Producer class. Now, what this class does is it shows you some sample documentation about the Producer API, and this is a class that you're going to be using to be writing the logic that will send information or send the messages or events to the Kafka cluster, specifically the broker component of that ecosystem. This code starts here by creating a properties object, and then certain calls are made to set values inside this properties object. So the next thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to walk you through what each of these configuration values represent. And then I am also going to share the documentation to each of those pages. So if we head out to the first page here, again, I'm going to add this to the description. This page contains all the different configuration values for different ecosystems, but the one that we care about right now is the Producer configuration. So in this sample code, we have Bootstrap Servers, we have Axe, we have retries, we have Lingar, milliseconds, we have serializers for the key and serializers for the value. On this particular documentation here, the first one is talking about the Bootstrap Servers. So Bootstrap Servers is a configuration that you use to specify a list of Kafka brokers in your cluster by specifying the IP address or the host name of the pod, separated with a colon, and then the port number where that broker is listening and accepting connections. If you have just one, you can specify that broker. If you have multiple, you can specify it and then separate each broker with a comma. So that list is what you're going to pass inside this particular setting over here. So this is the key for the configuration, and this is the value of the configuration. If you have more than one, you can list it in a comma separated fashion as specified here. So again, I'm going to put this link in the description, and you can take a look at exactly how to specify it. But this means the list of servers in the cluster where you're sending your value to. The next one we're going to talk about is acknowledgements. So this has to do with how the set of brokers is going to respond to you when you write message to it. So let's take a look at the first value. It has three possible values. You can specify 0, you can specify 1, you can specify all. In this particular setting here, we said all. So what does all mean? All means that when you send the value, send your message or event to a Kafka broker, it is going to have to wait for all the replicas to acknowledge that they have received a copy of this data before it returns back to you. If you set it to 0, it will just write the message to the producer, and it will not have to wait to other replicas or followers of that particular partition to acknowledge that they have received the message before sending back. If you set it to 1, it is going to wait for at least one of them to acknowledge that the data has been received before coming back. So depending on the durability and the latency that you expect in your application, you can pick one of these three values and specify. If you want to guarantee that the data would not be lost and you want to wait for everybody to acknowledge before you proceed, then the value of all is recommended. So again, this is the link where you can go and take a look at that particular setting. The next one I want to talk about is retries. So if we go to retries, we can see what that means. Now this, I guess you can guess from the name, it means that if you send a message to the broker and something happens, you can then retry based on the number of times you have specified here. So in our example, we set retries to 0, meaning that we don't want to try again. This one here needs a little bit of explanation. Lingar milliseconds. So Lingar milliseconds has to do with when we specify a batch size. So sometimes it is better for you to wait to receive a certain bulk number of messages before writing so that you can improve your throughput. So let's say we are waiting for 100 messages to arrive to complete a batch before we send it to Kafka broker. We can decide to wait around or linger for a certain number of milliseconds if we don't have enough. Now, if we're waiting for 100 messages to arrive and we have, let's say, 50, we can wait for 5 milliseconds. And if we don't receive the full batch, then we can proceed to write this message to the broker or send this message to the broker. But if you receive everything that completes the batch, then it does not have to wait. It will just proceed to send that message to the broker. So the linger millisecond allows you to kind of like stall a little bit if you don't have enough messages, and you can now use this configuration to determine how long you're willing to wait before you send messages to the broker if you don't have enough messages or events to complete the batch in which you're trying to send to the broker. So let's take a look at another setting. The last two I'm going to cover in this particular video is the key serializer and the value serializer. A lot of times we need to specify the key in a particular format or the value in a particular format. So you can use this particular setting to specify a Java class that will allow you to control the format and the structure of the messages in which you are sending to the Kafka broker. So key serializer is used to control the contents of the key, and value serializer is used to control the contents and the structure for the value. If you need to take a look at that, you can take a look at it using this particular documentation page. Again, I'm going to put all of these resources in the description, and you can take a look at it. So that's all I wanted to cover in this particular video. In this video, we talked about the Producer API, we talked about the configuration values, and then what is left is for us to just create a producer object and then pass in the properties that we specify, setting it up earlier here, and then we can start to send some sample messages to our cluster. In the next video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do an actual live demonstration And then I am also going to walk you through all the different configuration values that we have for producers. And then we're going to do a live interaction. But for now, what I want you to do is to come to this particular documentation page and then take a look at all the different producer configurations. And if you have any questions, please put it in the comments. And then in the next video, I will walk you through how you can actually use all these different configuration values to interact with the broker by sending messages to it. That's all I wanted to cover for today. And I thank you for your attention. If you are interested in exactly what scenarios you can use Apache Kafka, I have a course in which you can come to this particular link and then it will take you to the page and you can sign up and then let me know what you think. And you can also try it out. And if you have any questions, feel free to let me know either by putting it on the course description resource or sending me an email directly. And then this has a money back guarantee, and you can, if you don't like the content, you can feel free to cancel. But I think it will be beneficial for you to understand the different scenarios in which you can use Apache Kafka or any of the other open source data workloads or data stores that is being covered in the course. Thank you for your time today, and feel free to subscribe if you like this content or feel it is helpful, and like the video as well if you think it was beneficial. I will see you in the next video. Thank you for your time today.